That's why I didn't want to use it.
Yes, absolutely. Start out with a bang. Well, my job today is to keep us on track, which is probably going to be a difficult job. So I'll take it seriously and keep my watch intact because I know you have to get back to the office. And I know you'll want to rush out of here and go utilize some of the plans that they give us today. Last night it was a privilege to be at a dinner that we were able to share and learn more about Scott, both Scott and Peter, to see what they were doing. And the one key thing last night that stuck out in my head is, to this group, what it means is there are real life applications here that you can use. And both of these men are going to share with you today what they have been doing out in their prospective jobs. So we'll go in order, and first Scott is going to speak to us, and then Peter. So I'd like to formally introduce you, and I hope I do not butcher your name, but Scott Jazeski. He is the head and director of His Way at Work, which is a nonprofit ministry. It's a 501c. And he's going to introduce and start us out. And then we will turn it over to Peter Freissle. Is that correct, Peter? All right. And he is the president, owner of Polydeck Screen Corporation in Spartanburg. And from what I understand, there's some office space where Scott is in his office. And so they have such a story to share with us, but such an example for us to use and to utilize in our own communities and in our businesses. So without going on and on, I'm going to turn it over to Scott, and I'm going to keep him on track so Peter can speak to us today.
Thank you, Terry, and she will do a good job, I'm sure, of keeping us on track. But we do value your time. We want to thank you up front for taking time out of your day. The fact that you've been plugged into these sessions says a lot to me. That you have a heart for the Lord, and that heart you want to live out, not only in your spiritual life, but living it out where God plants you, okay, in the mission field where you are. So, my name is Scott Jazeski, and yes, that's not necessarily a Charleston name. That would be more of a Dysart, Iowa name, okay? Grew up in the center of this nation in a cornfield, and first came to the southeast to Hickory, North Carolina in '86, and has moved around in several different states, working for a printing company called R.R. Donnelly for over 20 years. But my job title is not only director of the ministry of His Way at Work, but it's also workplace ministry coach. Okay? Now, when I talked to the students this morning and threw that out there, I'm not quite sure we could find it at the registrar's office for Charleston Southern right now for a career path. But who knows? Okay, we're planting seeds on this trip, and it may be something that does take root. But if you look at that, workplace ministry coach, the three words by themselves you're probably familiar with. But when you put them together, it's probably not something you're familiar with. And that's what we're going to hope to do for you today, is give you kind of a paradigm shift. And if you Google what paradigm shift is, it's replacing a former way of thinking with a radically different way of thinking. Basically, change the way you see things. Okay? So I'm going to work your imagination and your visual skills a little bit as you're chewing on your lunch. Federal Express. Can anybody tell me where the arrow is in Federal Express? Now, did you just see that, or have you been doing the blogs and stuff like that? Thank you. Okay, well, he wins a free lunch. And if you want to practice that a little bit, there you go. Between the E and the X. Now, here's the deal. I'm an old guy. I can remember before Federal Express actually had their first truck, okay, and the logo. And it wasn't until Peter and I were returning from Atlanta on a presentation that we did in Buckhead. And he says, hey, have you ever seen the arrow in the Federal Express logo? I'd never seen that, okay? Now that he's pointed it out to me, it's like, bam, that's where my eye goes automatically. And that's what we're really wanting you to be thinking about is, bam, how do I look at myself as a leader? Maybe it's in the business world, as a business leader, but you're a missionary. okay? That's what you're pointing towards. Actually, that's a new way of looking at where God's planning you. Is in a mission field, it may be selling insurance, it may be running a company, it may be working for a not-for-profit organization. But a paradigm shift in seeing how you look at where God's planted you 24/7. A little quiz here, missionary or business leader. Hopefully you can get this one right. We'll keep it on the simple mode, ministry or business leader. I mean, the guy looks miserable, doesn't he? I mean, anybody that enjoys saying you're fired, I mean, who wants to aspire to that? A real cool bald guy here. Maybe some of you may be able to identify this guy as missionary or a business leader. Both. Missionary and business leader. And that's the transition. Tom Collins talks about this in Good to Great. When he talks about good companies versus great companies, it's not we can do quality or efficiency, it's quality and efficiency. And that's what we're talking about here, is living our life out as a missionary, as in a mission field, as business leaders. So Chick-fil-A, if you go to their website, they publicly post to glorify God as their corporate purpose. Another bald guy. This one's going to be a little bit tougher. His name's Hank Flint. Hank Flint is Vice Chairman of Coke Consolidated in Charlotte. They're the second largest bottler of Coca-Cola in the nation. Fortune 100 company, publicly traded. You go to their website right now, click on their purpose statement, and this is what pops up. And you can see right at the top of that, to honor God in all we do, is right under our purpose. And Hank Flint will be the first one to be excited about saying, hey, I have a new purpose of coming to work now, and a new focus. How about this guy? Missionary or business leader? Blake Bukowski. Anybody got any Tom shoes on in here? Anybody know what I'm talking about? So for every pair of Tom shoes that you buy, there's a pair that's going to be donated to needy people around the world. Okay? And that started in 2006. So when I talked to the students this morning, I said, you could be the next Blake. 4 years ago, he was not making shoes. He didn't have this business. Harvard's studying his case management of a business entrepreneurship. But you know what? He's doing it for the glory of God. Okay? So this morning, as we were preparing, I realized that this whole social entrepreneurism is right here at Charleston Southern as well. So I went down to get a battery for my clicker. Okay? And in the bookstore is a really cool sweatshirt. But the real cool thing is that it's a company that's out of Spartanburg called Ultra Garcia. And what they do is they guarantee that the workers at their mills all over the world will get a living wage. Okay? So these type of things of blending as a mission field, what you're doing as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, is all around us, okay? And as you know it, but we're just joining this swell that God's bringing up in the workplace.